30th. I just welcome my cohort, my wonderful class. We're going to be continuing the second half of the semester using Adobe Photoshop. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be focusing mostly in the web portion of the deliveries. So it's going to be a little different than the standard CMYK high resolution stuff. And we're going to use Photoshop to its fullest abilities to deliver more projects. So let's go ahead and get started with the lesson today. It's going to be mostly with vector, implementing vector shapes and vector objects in Photoshop. Doesn't necessarily have to be from Illustrator. We can create our own vector shapes and utilize it in a way that it kind of simulates the Illustrator feel as well. Right, so let's go ahead and get started now. I'm going to share my screen. So I unlocked this new module for you. It's going to be module number 8 and 9. It says overall review, etc., because it is usually the halfway point of the semester, and we do like an overall review. However, the review can be implemented with these new exercises that I've added, so I'm going to definitely do that as well. We're going to create a tracing the letter S. This is an Illustrator file. I know how important it is for you to implement the pen tool. I hope you had enough of that practice in your digital drawing class with Sheila, with your Illustrator class. I just wanted to make sure I reiterate some of the important stuff and how you can apply those skill sets in Photoshop. So if this looks like an Illustrator file for you, don't think, oh, is this the right class? It's just a reference file that we're going to use. This is an actual discussion that I created online to see how well you guys produce this drawing. Also, it's a good way to test your skills at using the pen tool, because by now you should, have a pretty good grasp on it if you had enough practice. If not, I strongly recommend that you keep practicing utilizing this pen tool, because it's pretty much everywhere in all programs. You can see it in InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, especially Illustrator. It was the main program that it originated from. And other software like Corel Draw, some of the older ones, Macromedia, Freehand. I can keep naming programs, the advanced drawing programs, and creative digital programs that have the pen tool integrated in it. Figma, XD, right? So all the ones that you need to use to create, even mobile prototypes, pretty much anything that you see. Okay, so you have to be able to be flexible, incorporating that skill with other programs, not just Illustrator. Okay, so this is that for that one. We have a TTC advertisement. So it's a good little way to implement what we're going to learn with the vector shape tools by creating a clipping mask in Photoshop and implementing clipping masks on real life scenarios. So that's what that is. There's some image sources for us to use. You can download those ones as well. All right. First off, I would like to get into the book cover because that's where we left off last class. There was one thing I wanted to cover as well. So I'm going to kind of talk about that for a bit, and then we're going to see the due date for this one. Hope you guys had a good break as well during the reading week. Ironically, I know you had to think about the book cover during your reading week, but thinking about it is not much as kind of working on it and stuff. Hope you guys balanced it out well. Just to kind of see these projects here. All right, so the main project. So this is like your last main project. It's due in 1 week from today. I'm going to give you, just because we have the class on a Thursday, I'm going to give you a few more days on this one. So I'm going to change the due date till Sunday the 9th. So you have the weekend to finish this, okay? Because I didn't want to overburden you with the the reading weekend stuff overlapping. So you have a few extra days for that one, okay, guys? Just to kind of, and I saw the little heart there, appreciation. That's good. Just because of the way the semester is right now, I think we're going to be okay. That's your last project anyway, so we have ample amount of time to get this executed. Okay, so that's good. So 1 week and 3 days. Just don't forget, these are the things you have to pretty much accomplish. We covered most of these things in the last class before we went to the to the reading week. The only thing I haven't done is the CMYK conversion and PDF. I just want to show you how to set this up for the printer, because that's important if you're going to publish something professionally, right? Being in school is one thing, doing school projects, but if you're going to do a professional book cover, I want you to be able to do it from, start to finish. So I want to show you that part as well this morning as we start. All right, so everything else I think it's locked alone. We covered all this stuff and I gave you an extra extension. Perfect. All right, so let's do that before we dive into the new stuff. This is strictly watch me video, so do not attempt to do this. This is being recorded. You can watch the video after and attempt to do it. So this is just watch me how to do this part, please. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the files here where we left off last time. Just to show you some of the print stuff that I do, I'll show you a little business card I created for a client. So this is a True Smile. It's a dental lab. And you can see here how you have the front and the back of the business card. This is going to be real, like a gold metallic foil. It's going to be a very fancy business card with a soft touch finish. What I'm trying to show you here is the bleed marks and the crop marks and the registration marks. When you submit a professional job to the printer, even a simple business card, you have to set it up properly like this to go through the press, okay? And this is how you can actually produce these cards. Then there's like literatures, like things like this. This is a 3-panel brochure that they give out to the dental, companies and stuff. All right, so this is how that one looks. The bleed is here as well. If you look at the edges, there's the crop marks. I can probably show you a better example on this one here, because maybe not necessarily you're going to be doing book covers, but you might do a catalog, a sell sheet, anything that companies need, especially this time of year. There's a lot of trade shows happening. So these two files I had to set up for the printer. I'll show you what they look like, just to kind of show you. All right, so this is, see these little marks here? This is where they cut the paper, and this is where the paper extends to. So that's what the bleed is, and the crop is where they cut it. So crop marks and bleed marks. This is going to be a booklet. So if you see like the front cover, then page 2, page 3, and then page 4, page 5, and so on and so forth. So it's like one of those catalogs that they need for the shows. To get a proper view of this book, you can change your preferences to 2-page view. So now it looks like the real book actually. It does the cover, and this is the inside cover. So it's together. It's like a double-page spread, another double-page spread. The reason why I see a gap, it's because they're going to cut the paper there. So when they finish the actual booklet or a catalog or a book, whatever way you're going to categorize it as, it's going to be joined. You won't see this gap over here. So most of the pages are in the, here's another joining part here. It's kind of joined from one page to the next. In case you're wondering what this is, it's for like dentures and stuff. Hopefully you won't need those anytime soon. It's for like older people, but it's a big industry for creating dentures for people that don't have teeth, right? The other one is, where's the other one I wanted to show you? This one here is a nice one too. It's a very modern product from Germany, these implants. So they're special implants. They're like smaller implants that they use. And again, same type of people that are doing this part. And you can see the crop marks and the bleed marks included there. So you see this black line here? This black line, basically, it bleeds from this page. So it cuts off into that page. It also means when they cut it, you won't see that black line. It'll cut right through. So the job will be pretty much executed like that. Okay. So these are some of the jobs I set up pretty much on my normal, routine that I produce a lot of printing for this industry and other industries too. I don't just do dental, but this is the time of year where they do a lot of trade shows and stuff. Here's your bleed marks and crop marks again. Okay. So every job that you see, from a business card to a booklet, a brochure, anything that you see, you have to produce the bleed marks. And yes, I did this in InDesign. So if you see the InDesign files, they're here. There's my support files. There's my PDFs that I sent to the printer. This is how you set up the job. So this is two jobs amalgamated into one folder here. And if I open up the InDesign file, I'm sure you can relate because you're using InDesign in Roberto's class. They're missing now some of these. I gotta relink the files here. So there's the PDF. There's the InDesign file. So from this, I produced the PDF with the crop marks and the bleed marks. And that's under File, Export, and you select the PDF option for print, not interactive. Okay, and you go through all the print settings. I'm sure you went over this with Roberto. I have a special setting set up, press ready with marks. So what that means is when you have the bleed, you have the crop marks and the bleed marks checked on. You have to do that. And you use the document bleed settings, which you apply in the beginning when you set up the document. So make sure this is all done. So when you hit export, you're going to see exactly the result I showed you. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Why am I showing you InDesign? Because Photoshop is not capable to do this. So whatever you do in Photoshop, you have to take it to InDesign or Illustrator to produce the print-ready documents. This is just how it is, okay? You can technically do a Photoshop trick and send it to the printer, as long as you increase the size, which I'm going to show you next, and then you're going to see why am I showing all this stuff. But that's just something you have to know to give extra space to the edge of the artboard to get printed. So let's just go back to our folder now. And there we go. So we left off with this one. This is the book cover. See, with Photoshop, it's quite simple. This is where we left off in the last lesson here. We created Da Vinci Code book cover. So if this was going to get sent to the printer to get it printed professionally, not Amazon, okay, we're not doing no, ebooks and stuff like that, right? Like a professional printed cover, then you're going to have to actually send it to InDesign or Illustrator and create the bleed marks and the crop marks because Photoshop can't do that. What Photoshop can do, however, is increase the edges. So if you go to doc image size, this is, well, not in pixels. We have to change it to inches. It's 11 by 7. Okay. So I just didn't want to implement this, print execution with this document. It was strictly a, Photoshop creative design type of exercise. But it doesn't do justice if I don't show you how to do it professionally when you do want to print it. Now, chances are you're not going to print these book covers professionally, okay? I'm not trying to kind of play down your design there, but unless you work with a real publisher and a real book, then maybe then you can print the book covers and have it set up for that. And that can happen. I mean, that's just a matter of you guys getting the work, right? So what I'm going to do is pretend that's the scenario and show you how to do that here. So do you have to do this? No. Okay, you don't have to do this, but if you want to show me and demonstrate it and learn from it, that's perfectly fine. So to add a bleed on this document, you have to do what's called a 1/4 inch bleed. A 1/4 inch is 0.25 inches, which is a 1/4 of an inch. So what I have to do is add 0.25 here, okay, and add 0.25 over here. Now, it changed with this what's called the locking the aspect ratio. So I'm gonna cancel this actually, because if I do it this way, it's gonna stretch my document. You can do it here. Most people like to do the image size. I prefer to do it this way. I prefer to use the canvas size over the image size. The difference is I'm increasing the canvas without affecting my artwork. And the benefit for that is you can increase, anything or any size without jeopardizing the proportions of your images. So if I do 0.25 here and 0.25 here, see, it won't mess with my proportions or nothing. It'll just let me type in this freely without any type of ramifications. I'm going to keep this anchoring in the center, which means, because if you put it here or there, it's going to add this extra, pixels or dimensions in the opposite area. So if I leave it center, it's going to distribute it evenly. So evenly means this, a 1/4 inch bleed. What does that really mean? The width. Well, the width is going to be divided by 2. So it's going to be 1/8 of an inch here and 1/8 of an inch here. Because if you add 1/8 and 1/8, if you guys know your fractions, it's a 1/4. Okay. Same thing if you divide the height, which is 0.25, it's going to be 1/8 and 1/8. The total is going to be 0.25. So the height is distributed by top and bottom. The width is distributed by left and right. Okay, that's your margins. So if you divide 0.25 in decimal fractions, what's 0.25 divided by 2? It's 0.125, because 12 and a half and 12 and a half is 25, right? So basically this is going to be 0.125 and this is going to be 0.125. Just to kind of make sense of this all, I do want to make sure you understand this because it's important. This is the stuff sometimes they don't teach you in school. A lot of times I talk to the printers, they're like, why don't you teach your students how to do a proper bleed or a proper setup and stuff? So I'm going to show you this example here. If I do, actually, let me do file document setup. Document setup in InDesign. Okay. Here's the bleed. See this? 0.25, 0.25. If you add the top and bottom, it's 0.25. That's why in InDesign, you do a 0.125 bleed. And that's the standard size in North America, even in Europe, okay? So that's what that bleed does. When you set up a bleed, you do 1.125. Okay, there's your master formula, if you want to call it. If you do large format printing, then you don't have to do a bleed because the offset is not that much. So they can just cut the job without having to worry about the, cutting excess edges. But this is what you have to understand. The 0.125 and the left and right is 0.125. And that's why in Photoshop, we make it 0.25. So what that happens now is this. I increase the edges. You can see the little extra gap I created here, right? And if I go to my layers now, I got to unlock this background layer. I can basically increase this image to have a bleed right to the edge, just in case it gets cut off. It might not look that good. I mean, you can leave this alone like this, so it'll be fine. But some designers are very picky and they would like to do, like you see this little tear here, they might want to go to that layer and just press Control T. Oh, I think I'm in the wrong layer here. Okay, let's do this one as well. And just go right to the edge. You see, I just pull it right to the edge. So when they cut this, when they cut the actual paper, it's not going to affect anything. All right. Same as this background here. I'm going to select this whole background, Command T, and I'm going to stretch this also to the edges. I'm going to select this other part over here. I think this is the front. I'm going to lock this again. And this is just me demonstrating this. You don't have to do any of this stuff, guys. Just pay attention. So again, Command T, and I'm going to stretch this over to the edge here like that. If I want to be more without stretching her face, I'm going to hold Shift and grab the corners instead and just move it up a little bit, right? So now I'm accompanying the bleed. Okay, so when the paper gets cut and stuff, it's going to still be professionally executed, and that's all you have to do is accompany the bleed and make sure it's all done. Okay, and making sure my guides are still intact. So once you do the little things like this, and you get the call to listen, we love your book cover, we want to send it to the press. You have to make sure you do this, and then you save a separate copy. So I'm going to do a save a copy, or I'm going to call this a PDF format. So PDF is how you export things to the printer. It's the most communicative format back and forth. You can give them the original as well. One thing I also want to make sure it's set to CMYK, because if we're sending this to the printer, you have to go in CMYK color. Otherwise, the breakdown won't be, it'll cause printing problems sometimes. The colors will come out different, right? It'll ask me to merge or don't merge. I'm not going to merge this for now. I'm going to keep it like, well, I can merge it if I want because it's not my work copy. It's a backup copy. But just to be on the safe side, I'm not going to merge it. And it's asking me if I want to rasterize some of the smart object, which I will. That's fine. And I'm going to click OK. So it's a really serious matter. It's asking me like 3 different questions to take into account. Notice how the colors became a little duller. They're not as vibrant as they were before. That's because RGB spectrum is, red, green, blue, and it's true bright colors. As CMYK is your print, so cyan, magenta, yellow, black. They're not as bright, but they produce also the results that you see from the printer. And to get the rich oranges and the yellows and all those things, sometimes they do run extra colors on the press, and that's how they get the vibrancy of those colors as well. They can run metallics and all kinds of stuff. All right, so this barcode kind of went a little off as well. So I'm gonna just note that. I could have taken out the actual, I'll leave it alone for now, but I could have got a real barcode and that wouldn't have happened. That was just an image I got on the internet, I think. So I'm gonna leave that alone for now, but I did catch that. All right, so now we can save it as a PDF. So let's go ahead and do a save a copy. We're gonna do a Photoshop PDF. There it is, Photoshop PDF. I'm not gonna include the layers, okay, because I don't really care. I'm not gonna edit this. The printer is not gonna edit my work. They're just gonna print it. If they have to convert it to French or something like that to get a translation, then maybe then I can give them the Photoshop master file and they can do some translation if that's required. A lot of catalogs and books do that. But for me to just do a straight print, I'm going to save it as a PDF and just hit it like that. I'm going to save this on the desktop actually, just to keep it fresh and separate. So this is where you have to obviously apply some settings that are corresponding with the printer. So you're going to go with high quality print. Okay. This won't work because it doesn't have crop marks in Photoshop. So I'm just going to go with the press ready anyways. Preserve Photoshop editing capabilities, and no need for that. It'll just add more file size. It's not necessary because you're not going to edit the file, as I said earlier. The compression is left alone. The output, as long as it's high res, you don't have to do any of this. Just make sure this is set to, high quality print or press ready file. Okay. So once you do all that, you hit save. I'm going to close this file down. Should I save the original? No, I won't save the original because I want to keep the RGB format for other uses. This is just an example I showed you of. By the way, if you're wondering why that thing is so wide, it's a 3-panel fold. It's like a big pamphlet, if you want to call it. So here's the end result. We have the book cover. It's looking duller, but that's because the CMYK. But that's fine because when you print it, it's going to come out better than that. If I open it up, it'll look like this. Okay, so this is our job. As you can see, I added the extra dimensions, but I don't have the crop marks and the bleed marks set up. All right, so now what I need to do is do that in either InDesign or Illustrator. Which program do you want me to do it in? You can pick one. I can set up the bleed marks in Illustrator, or I can set up the bleed marks in InDesign. I can do both if you want. Might as well do both. So I'm doing the class recording anyways. So here's the Illustrator method. You create a new file, okay? And you go to print because we're setting up a print document. We match the dimensions over here. So we go to inches. Remember, it's 711. So we make it 711. Sorry, width is 11. Height is 7, correct? Now we add the bleed. This is the bleed down here. So we're going to go up to 0.25. So top and bottom equals 1/4, which is what we did in Photoshop. We preemptively, made it possible. And same as the left and the right. If you add 0.25 and 0.25, is 0.25. So we accommodated the bleed, which is, again, the term is 1/4 inch bleed all the way around. So all the press industry knows all this. So your job as a graphic designer is to not just design, but to produce files for the printer. Because let's face it, you're still printing a lot of the stuff that you see. Go to the stores, you see packaging everywhere. You see big signs everywhere. You see all kinds of stuff. Okay, so print is not going anywhere, guys. Not in our lifetime anyways, okay? I know the digital stuff is, it's always been on the rise, but print is still there. Plenty of print work, trust me. So you set up this top, bottom, left, right bleed, 0.25. You just have to go up. Make sure it's CMYK color. I'm gonna hit the create button. It's landscape. Notice this red border on the outside. That's my bleed. Okay. Make sure to see that you got to make sure your the guides are visible, because if you hide the guides, you won't see the bleed. So if you go to view guides, show guides, which is command semicolon, right? I usually use a shortcut. I just do that, command semicolon, okay? And I show the guides that way. Now I'm going to set up my book cover here so I can send it to the printer. So I go to File, Place, okay? So I'm in Illustrator now. I go to my desktop. I select my book cover PDF file that I exported from Photoshop in a CMYK format. I'm going to hit the place button, and I'm going to purposely click on the red corner here where the bleed is, not where the edge of the page is, which is the white. I'm going to go for the red right here. If I do it properly, it's going to set up the job just like that. Beautifully, perfect. Okay, so notice how the bleed is applied, and Illustrator knows this, and the Photoshop preparation was done right. I mean, with all honesty, when you guys do graphic design work, you're gonna use all three programs. You're gonna use Photoshop, Illustrator, and Design. They all go together. This is why your composite assignment is made for that reason. So you understand how to amalgamate all three programs together. That's why you're learning all these separate things. Okay, so now what you do is you save it as. There's no export functions here. There's only export for images in Illustrator. What you do is you save as, okay, and you save it as an Adobe PDF format. Okay, so that's what you want to do from Illustrator. I'm going to call this one book cover press ready. And I'll put AI because it's an Illustrator file. I'm going to hit the save button. And from here, I'm going to set up um, you can do press ready or high quality prints. I'm going to go with the defaults because these are my own presets. You don't have these. What you want to look for is something called press quality, because the press quality is what you want to set up for the press, right? You also want to make sure you don't have to turn this on, preserve Illustrator editing capabilities, because there's nothing to edit in Illustrator. We didn't do anything in Illustrator. We just placed this image from Photoshop into Illustrator, and we're setting it up for the printer. That's all we're doing here. So this is not necessary, and there's no need to add extra file size when you don't need to. So just make sure this is set up. Everything else is done. You want to check, make sure the images are 300 or 450 DPI, marks and bleeds. This is the important part here. You want to add the trim marks, the registration marks. If you're doing packaging, you want to add the color bars. If you open up a bag of chips or cookies and you see the little color boxes there, that's what that is, right? So if you have like spot colors or Pantone colors, you will see those show up. What we want to do is leave this off for now. We're just doing, paper cover here with the books or magazines or catalogs. So just leave these two. Click on this use document settings tab. This is going to give you if you see how it's ghosted out, it says 0.125, 0.125, 0.125, and 0.125. So this will accommodate the bleed. I usually tell my students to screen capture this when they see it. So when I hit save PDF, that's exactly what's going to happen. So there's your Illustrator method. Here's the result. Don't confuse the two, right? This is the Photoshop PDF. This is the Illustrator PDF. You see, Illustrator did something Photoshop cannot do, and that's setting up the job for the printer. So now this is considered a professional press-ready file to get printed. Okay, and you can send it anywhere. Any press company will appreciate this because they say, oh, look, these guys know what they're doing. They did their registration marks. They did their crop marks. This is the calibration marks. No need to worry about that. The most important is here, crop marks, registration marks. All right, and if I want to double click on it, you can see it better here. Right, so that's how you get the job done right. Some people prefer to use InDesign instead of Illustrator, and that's okay too. It's just a choice. I like to use InDesign for like multiple pages. So if I'm doing like a catalog, like those booklets I showed you, I would use InDesign because I want like 12 pages, 24 pages. I want to set it up in InDesign, absolutely. But this is a book cover, so you can still do the same thing. You create a new file, you go to print, you set up the inches, you do 11 by 7, right? So you match the dimensions of the book cover you did in Photoshop, and you go down here, you increase the bleed, you go one up, okay? One up, because if you keep going, it's gonna go more and more and more. Like this is, I don't even know why they have this. Look, it won't even go, well, actually, it can go higher. Nobody goes to that extent, okay? So it's 0.125. That's the magic number. So top, bottom, left, right, 0.25. Hit create. I really didn't need this margins to show up here. So I can go to document setup quickly again here and turn off this the margin. I'll just make it 0. I don't really need margins. I just need the bleed. So there we go. So I use the main arrow selection tool. I'm in InDesign. So in this case, I go File Place. Command D is your shortcut, as you know already. You go to the desktop. You select your original Photoshop copy. This is the Photoshop file. You don't want to, obviously, you do one or the other. Don't do both, okay? I'm showing you so you can learn both because some of you have a preference of two programs. When I ask the students this question, I got half the students putting their hands up in Illustrator, the other half putting their hands up for InDesign. So just obviously we're here to bring the Photoshop document to create, basically we want to create this, but in InDesign, right? So we're going to create the Photoshop file, okay? We don't have to show import options, just simply hit okay. And we're going to catch this red border again, the same way we did it in Illustrator, right? This time we're in InDesign. So the same rules apply. You go to File, you could save the job if you want, in case you want to create a template. Maybe you made, I don't know, 4 other book covers and you want to just produce templates and produce, jobs for the printer. Then you save it as a, InDesign document. And you just swap this with another book cover later and just send it to the printer again. So that's another advantageous thing you want to do as a production artist. Because don't forget, in this industry, you might end up not being a creative designer. You might be doing half the job as production because somebody has to set this up and somebody has to have the skill to know how to do this. And not an average person knows this kind of stuff. Everyone knows Canva and all these other online programs. But when it comes to producing professional, print ready files, those programs won't do that for you. You need the Adobe software to do this properly. Okay. Whether it's color calibration, print marks, bleed marks, registration marks, otherwise, the printers will reject the job. Okay. So this is why I'm showing you this because it's important. Let's go to File, Export. So you export it from InDesign. I'm going to call this book cover again. And this is going to be the InDesign file ID. We're going to do Adobe Photo PDF for print. So here we're going to select the actual press quality default format that you see here. And make sure that's selected because this way will give you the optimum print resolution. Under marks and bleeds, we're going to have the crop marks and the bleed marks checked on. To apply the document bleed settings, because we did that initially, we have to include this use document and bleed settings. This also has to be enabled. So now you see here the ghosted numbers, 0.125, 0.125, 0.125, and 0.125. So you set this up, hit the export button, and that should take care of that. I'm not gonna save this. I mean, maybe I should just to kind of keep a copy of it. So book cover press setup. This is an InDesign file. So there you have it. Okay, so we have this is the I don't remember what I said. I think I sent it to my job folder here, my Braden folder. So by mistake, I sent it to the wrong place. I'm just gonna bring it out, bring it back to my desktop. Alrighty here. Got too many folders. There it is, the book cover. All right, put it back here. It's in the Braden folder. All right. So here we have it, guys. Here's the Photoshop design that we accommodated for the bleed. We increased a 1/4 inch bleed all the way around. From Illustrator, this is what we got. And from InDesign, this is what we got. Notice how the bleed marks and the crop marks look different in Illustrator versus InDesign. Does this matter? No, it doesn't matter. As long as you have both of these set up, the printers will be perfectly fine. Because this has this first set of lines is your crop marks. The ones that are the outside are the bleed marks because the bleed goes up to the edge, and the crop marks is where they cut the actual paper. People are wondering, well, how's this even done? So, I'm just gonna show you quickly here, guys. Wish I can. I used to take my student on a field trip and take you to a real printer because it used to be fun to see how this stuff is. So press, cutting, paper. So we're gonna go to under videos. Oh, perfect. Look at that. So this is your book cover stacked in a lot of sheets of paper. Watch your hands, guys. That's how you cut the paper, see? So you have a pedal on your feet and your hands. There's a laser right there, that red line going across. And it's so safe, guys, that even if you try to, not that you're gonna do that, you can't. It's so safe proof that you can't cut your hands or anything like that because your hands have to touch. There's two knobs on the side of the machine. You gotta have those two buttons simultaneously pressed, and you have a pedal for your feet. And that's the only way that blade comes down. And even if your hand happens to be there, the laser will detect it and it won't do anything bad. So, I mean, it's 99.9999 safe, okay? Notice how his hands are nowhere near that blade when he cuts it. So that's the bleed right there. He's cutting off that excess white portion that's on the edge. And those crop marks and bleed marks, the machine recognizes. See how it cuts the extra paper there? So you have everything perfectly cut to shape based on what we're trying to do. Okay. So there's your pre-press crash course for today. All right. We're wrapping up the print segment. So this is how I usually would like to finish it off by explaining to you what this stuff really is and how is it really applied in the industry. So from this is good for design, but without this, you're not going to really print the job. So you got to make sure you set it up. And just as you saw the machine, it was cutting this excess white border of the paper. And that's how they do it to print it professionally and to have a nicely done finished book cover. Okay. All right. So that wraps up that segment there. Do you guys have any questions about this? Sorry, I can't take you on a field trip, but I would love to maybe next semester if we get the chance. So this is week 9, and that's our class number 8. Alrighty. Okay, no questions. Let's move forward. So now we're going to get into the vector part of the programs. So as there is, let's open up the book cover again. I did demonstrate this quickly last class to create something like, um, text wrap. So there's no such thing as a text wrap option in Photoshop as you have it in, Illustrator and InDesign. You guys know, right? The text wrap stuff. We're gonna actually do a little Illustrator today too, so I'm just gonna open it quickly here. So there's a box here. If I want to put some text, simply do this. There's my text. There's my box, right? bring this to the front. So the box has to be to the front. The text has to be in the back, right? I mean, either or it might recognize it, but you select the text basically, and you go to it's under object, believe it or not. It's under your your text wrap here. Text wrap make, right? So once you apply that, you see this is to the front. I think select I have to select the object, guys, not the text. My bad there. So object, text wrap, make. There you go, right? So now this text wrap is applied on the objects. Wherever you put on the text, it'll do the wrap. This happens in InDesign, and this happens in Illustrator, but this cannot happen in Photoshop. It doesn't have that option. So you have to kind of cookie cut it yourself. So what I had to do here was demonstrate it using the pen tool technique. So just to recap that quickly, because I think it's important you know this. So I'm going to hit copy, and then basically this was an object I made. It was a shape, so I'm going to delete that. Okay. This was a clipping mask already applied in here using the frame tool, which I'm going to introduce to you more of that in the upcoming lessons using, we're going to create a website soon in Photoshop. So we're going to use the frame tool a lot to implement images and a lot of the web materials that we need to do to create the website. Okay. So for now with the book cover, to create this, text wraparound effect, the only way Photoshop does it is creating like a text box and putting your text in there. The problem with this is it doesn't have a text wrap option at all. So we basically drew one ourselves to make it look like it's going around the image to implement it that way. The way we did it was we used the pen tool. And the pen tool is what this lesson is going to be focusing mostly on, and objects and vector shapes and stuff. So with the pen tool, we basically went around the image. We went over here, shift click, shift click, shift click. I think I should have had the path option turned off. Right, so we made our own little box here like that. I don't think it matters if you have a fill or not. This is just when you're drawing with the pen tool, you can have it on shape or path. I think either one will work. The shape basically gives you like a fill. It's just like a normal shape in Illustrator that you're making, but you're making it in Photoshop, of course. So it gives you the fill. But if you do path, it'll work as well. The path is more useful for more specific things, which we're going to get into later with the paths. So what you do then is you click on the text tool and you click inside this box here. Photoshop will recognize what you're trying to do. It'll say, hey, maybe you want to put the text in there. So when you click, it's going to put the text in this box. So I'm just going to hit Command V. And all the text that I had before is in there. So what you have to do is you have to hide this other box behind it, which is let's call it the clipping mask or the shape. If I can just even delete it. And what I'm left with is my shape of my cookie cutter type of approach of creating, um, a customized implementation of text in a custom shape. Okay. Can you edit this further? Yes, you can with the direct selection tool. Again, I'm going to reference Illustrator because you have the main selection tool and direct selection tool. With this one, you can actually select the anchor points and you can move them around like this. And believe it or not, the box will comply and the text will move with it. Okay, like that. So I'm just kind of being extreme here. Some of the other things you can do, you can create a curvature point tool. So let's see, you do want to make this into a curve. I'm just going to do one of those. So now I have like a curved effect. All right. So it really helps for you to master these vector capabilities in Illustrator and apply them in Photoshop. It goes a long way. Same thing with this direct selection tool. I'm just going to put it over here like this. Maybe move this over like that. So you can do lots of cool things with this path shape. Again, if it's being a little stubborn on you, you just have to kind of go double click to highlight the text within the little T box here. Then switch the tools again to the direct selection tool and you can then start editing your path again if you need to, right? Right. Okay. So you can do a lot of cool things with Photoshop and its vector capabilities once you get the hang of it. What I'm going to do now is kind of um, see where you're at with the pen tool because I don't know your level of skill set of the. I never, saw you guys do any pen tool work because it's important. So I'm going to put this file away right now. The book cover is done. If you have any questions, let me know. But if you watched the video from the last lesson, I did do this from start to finish, so you guys can do that as well. I'm going to put this away. I'm not going to save it. Okay. What I'm going to do is go back to Illustrator and give you an exercise to practice in terms of tracing. And then we're going to apply that shape into Photoshop and see how we can relate the two programs together, incorporating vector shapes into a digital imaging software. So we're using combined digital drawing and digital imaging because they both do really well. I mean, if I show you, let me just put this one away for a second. Go back to the Photoshop file here. I'm going to save this as a Photoshop document onto the desktop. Just another file here. So I'm saving a Photoshop file, the book cover, nothing different here. And we're not talking about bleed and print anymore. That was a separate segment. I want you to know. So this is my look. I got 4 layer groups here. I got the back, the spine, I got the front, I got the background. I'm not going to save it again. It's fine. So what I want you to know, right, is that you can actually just watch here for a second. You could open Photoshop into Illustrator. You can also open up Illustrator into Photoshop. Now, there's some rules that apply and some limitations, so be careful. It's not like you're not supposed to go back and forth. You're supposed to go from one to the other for a reason. The reason is now maybe I'm doing another I'm modifying my design, plus I'm adding a prepress type of setup. So maybe that's my reason. But you shouldn't have to go between programs whenever you just feel like it, right? You either do your image editing in Photoshop, you bring it into Illustrator, or back and forth, you do your path and your objects in Illustrator, bring it into Photoshop. But let's just say for the argument's sake, we want to open this in Illustrator. We just open the Photoshop file in Illustrator because Illustrator is a vector program, so you can't do half the stuff you can in Photoshop that you can do in Illustrator. Look what it's asking me: convert layers to objects, or y'all want to flatten the layers to a single image. Well, I want to leave it as objects and see how far I can edit my book cover in Illustrator. So there it is. So now I'm in Illustrator looking at my book cover. It's kind of weird, right? But and the whole thing is like one image, but is it really one image? How about if I was to um, see here, put up my layers. I think it is broken up here. Unembed. Something happened with my file here, guys. Let me just see if I can do it again. I think that's the flat version. I don't see my layers. I was going to show you how the layers show up in Illustrator because it is possible to have all these layers show up. Maybe I'm just going to unlock them for now. Save it again. RGB mode. Okay. Open the file this way. Convert layers to objects. Yeah, that's weird. Anyways, you should be, maybe it's my groups. I don't know. That's something I have to work around. But you should see your layers and you can actually do some editing, guys, in here. Let me see if I can place it instead. This is bothering me now because it does usually work. Maybe it's way too complex for it. It's just a flat image. Okay, then maybe I'm missing a setting or something. But again, you don't do this regardless. You don't bring in the whole, you don't want to come here and start messing with the book cover. It's a Photoshop design. Why would you want to do an Illustrator? But you could do what I showed you earlier, set up the bleed, maybe add some extra typographical elements and things like that. And there is a way to edit this. It just like this, I guess it's how I saved it or something like that. It won't show me. All right, but let's get on with the exercise. What I wanted to do was open up a new document in here, and we're gonna do print file, make it you know, US letter size. You're gonna do 8.5 by 11, so it's a standard US letter size. Actually, you know what? I already have it set up for you. Never mind. Open it up from here. I think my coffee's kicking in, guys. Sorry, just kind of trying to remember all these things. Okay, here we go. So if you go to our module number 8 and 9, tracing exercise S, letter S trace. If you just click on this, you can start right from the point I'm asking you to do. So you don't, it's like, you know, it's set up for you basically. So click on this file, save it on your desktop. Okay, go to your desktop, and there's your Illustrator file. It's called letter S trace. Why the letter S? Because the letter S is the most challenging letter I think you can trace to perfection. And it doesn't matter how good you are, it's very difficult to trace. But I'm curious to see your skill level into, you know, drawing and tracing this letter. So go ahead and double click on it and open up the letter S like that. And then we're going to bring in this path into Photoshop and see some of the ways we can implement the S design into Photoshop and back and forth, okay? So this is already set up in case you're wondering, how is this set up like that? So it's a rasterized, usually the whole point of you doing this in Illustrator is to create logos, to convert images into vector or recreate logos and things like that, right? So your job is to retrace or recreate things in here. And if you look at your layers, this is set up in such a way that layer 1 is a template, layer 2 is your drawing layer. So if I hide the template, it looks like this, okay? You don't have to worry about this. I already set it up for you. I'm not here to teach you Illustrator. I just want to integrate a method from one program to another, which is the pen tool. So if I double click here, you can see it's a template already set up. Okay, because if I turn it off, it's going to look like this. But because I turned it on, it looks like that. Again, don't worry about that. I just want to show you in case you're wondering. What I want to see from you is your drawing. So you're going to go with the pen tool. You're going to turn off the fill. So you have like a black stroke, no fill. Because if you have the white fill and you forget about it, what can happen is this, right? It'll interfere. It'll interfere with your drawing. So that's why you want to turn off the fill. So you just want to have a stroke, okay? An outline. So we're going to turn the outline to, let's change the color a bit. I'm going to change it to a nice green or a nice fuchsia so it's bright. We're going to change the stroke to 2. So now you can see it nice and clear, right? I'm just going to press delete. And we always start at the corner. So I don't know how you guys are tracing your stuff, but you always start at the corner. You never start in the middle of a curve, because if you do the middle of a curve, it's going to be like bumpy when you finish it. It's not going to be as smooth. I find the corner is the best way to start. So I simply click here. Okay, I hope using a mouse. And you're going to go all the way. Notice how it's following the path here. I'm going to go, don't go too far. Don't go too close. If you go too close, what's going to happen is you're going to create too many points. If you go too far, you can't really conquer the curve that way. It's just not going to work, right? So I'm just going to press undo. So what you want to do is you want to go maybe smaller distances, but in the straight way. So I would go maybe up to here and click and drag the mouse like that. It's going to keep it nice and easy. Maybe go a little further. Okay, that's enough. Click and drag the mouse this way. Notice how I'm covering the path before, and I'm always headed in the direction that I'm going next. I'm not going to go like this or like this. I'm always heading towards the next curve. So I'm going this way because I'm always following this, right? And to make this shorter and longer, you can hold the Option or the Alt key. Okay. When you do, never bend this because it's going to give you a weird curve after. You can just extend it longer and shorter. By doing this, it gives you the advantage of maybe creating more customized, curves. You can always fix this later using the white arrow tool, so don't worry if you don't get it straight. But I'm going to try to go here and just do this. So it is off a little bit, that's fine. And I'm going to go all the way here and do this. So now if I hold the Option key, I can pretty much fix this if I want. Or I can use the Direction key after and do it. Should just be a perfectionist here. But you can always edit this later, so please don't worry about it now. If you do and you want to continue, always make sure you click where you left off and you continue. Here you click. When you click, you cut the point. So you can just go straight this way and click again. Because when you click and drag, you're creating a curve. If you just click, you're creating points, right? So you want to make sure you simply go click or click and drag when you intend to do whichever one. I'm also pairing up my points here. So I have two here. I should have two over here. Maybe I'll do another one over there just to kind of do this. I like the way this is headed for the next curve. So I'm going to go possibly over here. Maybe do this. Maybe we should have went over here even. That's fine. And then I'll go all the way over here, click and drag. It might take you a few attempts to get this perfect. We're not here to get it perfect. As long as you do a decent job, you're okay. And that's pretty much how we're going to do this whole tracing exercise. And you can then fix this up a little bit if you need to, back and forth. All right. And if I press Command Y or Control Y, which is, um, your outline mode or preview mode, sometimes that can help you draw things a little better. But all in all, this is pretty much the execution I wanted you to do in Illustrator and to show me how well you can draw, because this is going to go to Photoshop and we're going to do a clipping mask exercise of some kind using other similar methods. So this is what I want you to do next. In the next, I'm going to give you like a 10-minute workshop in the middle of this lesson. So I want you to do this on your own.